Our next inductee is a pioneer, Peggy Berryhill. She allowed many of us that got involved with the media and radio and television to set the foundation and made our journey along that road much easier. And it all started with Peggy Berryhill.
Peggy Berryhill is the founder and president of the Native Media Resource Center. Her body of work spans 4 decades. Berryhill is the only Native person to work for National Public Radio as a producer, and is a premier radio documentarian whose work has been aired by hundreds of public radio stations. In 2010, the Native Media Resource Center constructed and launched KGUA 88.3 FM, a public radio station. Berryhill is the current co-owner and operator of the station.
Wow, this is just such an honor to be recognized by the tribe and to bring me back home. And I'm so happy to be back home. And I too am a cancer survivor 2 times. I didn't get here alone. I've had many mentors and colleagues as I've worked for the years, and the support, I'm going to name one person, Frank Tavares. My partner, Susan Rushmeyer, who always believes in my endeavors, has encouraged me to push the limits, and she's always been there when we've been through the tough times. Now, the focus of my journalistic career has been to ensure the authentic voice of Native America was represented and heard, our own stories told by our own selves, our voices, our words, our languages. Daddy said that we each have a little triangle that sits on top of our heart, and that triangle has sharp edges. And every time we are unkind or untruthful or unfair, that triangle turns and it wounds our heart. If we continue to do things that are unworthy to our spirit, then the edges of that triangle will become dull and will no longer have a conscience. That story became my moral compass. Tonight, when people ask me what I felt about tonight, I'll have only 2 words: Muskogee proud. Mado. Thank you. We're going to be running a radio station whose call letters are KGUA because we're in the town of Gualala. You know, I'm often asked why radio, especially now in the internet age. It's still the place where communities, where you go if there's a power outage. I mean, during fires and emergencies, nothing can take the place of a local radio station. There's a necessary role for radio. So let's look at the local events that happen here or some that might happen in the future. Have our own local musicians perform, our own local authors. Here's a role that I think community radio can play in this age where so much politics is polarized. How about a station that can help perhaps bridge communities and we can begin to talk with each other?
They actually help foster dialogue. They help build community. Once people can talk to each other, you can bring them on the air and talk to each other, and you end up with a conversation that moves the issue forward. That's so that it's not a screaming like you have on cable TV where nobody's listening, but people are actually trying to find common ground. It's a beautiful thing when it happens.
The Native Media Resource Center is the official licensee. And the Native Media Resource Center is a nonprofit organization that was founded by me. And the mission of the Native Media Resource Center was to break down stereotypes, to produce media about Native Americans, to promote racial harmony and cross-cultural understanding. It's costing us around $300,000 just to build the physical station. We have to build a tower and buy the transmitter and all the antennas and things like that. It's a lot of money. Good morning. This is Peggy's Place on KGUA this morning. Peggy's Place, as I always say, it's a time to get to know our neighbors and friends. Well, we still have a few minutes left here, and one of the things I love to hear, and I'm hoping we might hear, is some of your culture your stories about the culture of the whales. I'm still so enthralled with this idea of, you told us how they greet, you know, when they haven't seen each other for a season or something, they get together and they're matriarchal and they wait for the signal and then
That's
they,
right,
they
the greeting
mix.
ceremony.
And it's just so amazing. What other kind of cultural stories do we have?
A lot of caregiving behavior, which is pretty interesting to study how they take care of each other. They'll take care of animals that are, of course, directly related to them, but maybe animals that are also maybe distant cousins or aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. So it doesn't have to be a mother-parent, bond.
She's really good at not talking when she's interviewing. She knows how to, when interviewing, give that complete attention. And that little miracle happens with Peggy where if you're being interviewed by Peggy, suddenly you find yourself talking about stuff you didn't think you could or would because she's paying such rapt attention.
I was going down to the roundhouse with my cousin, and we were getting ready to start the fire for the roundhouse one evening, and I seen it, and it was just about to get dark, and a truck was coming up the hill, and I could see the headlights on the truck, and I could see silhouettes of two men standing in the back of the truck, and then I heard them. This when the lights hit us from the truck, we were walking down the road toward the roundhouse, and I heard this guy go, "There's two of those damn Indians," and then I heard the rifles cock, and then we just instinctively ran into the brush, and we just dove down and just covered our heads, and then there were bullets. They fired bullets. We could feel them going over our head, and for me, that was the first time I'd ever experienced racism personally.
And the Lost Coast rattlesnakes, they're well known, but that they're here. We don't encounter
There
them.
have been sightings of them over the years, but very rare. And old timers tell me they think they got a ride on a logging truck, and that's how they came here. This is not their territory. This is not their habitat. It's inland, where it's warmer. So it was strange to see, too. The show that I'm on is really an amazing community forum or event because she's interviewed so many different people here on the coast. And like I mentioned, scratching the surface of somebody, that's what she's doing, but more in depth to find out more about people. In my case, we're talking about the sightings, the nature, and that, so it's a little bit different. But I have people tell me that they've heard it. I'm always surprised. In fact, this is the ultimate. After the last show, I won't say his name, but Rick and I were shopping at Surf, and he said, "I heard you on Peggy's Place this morning. You sounded so young and intelligent." I would have to describe Peggy Berryhill. I would describe her as an elf, a little elf with a big grin and incredible intelligence behind those sparkling eyes, and a wonderful ability to interview people, to make people feel comfortable. I know she's had some tough interviews with some locals. She's told me about it, where they're just too uptight or whatever, nervous or scared. And she does her magic in bringing them out, bringing them to be able to share some of who they are. And we're lucky that she's here and doing what she's doing because it's a gift to the community. And the fact that her interviews are on the internet, on SoundCloud, it's a gift that we'll always keep giving.
We do what's called underwriting, and a business will buy time to support programming or just support the station. So we have a few underwriters, and we haven't really begun pledge drives or members yet. We've done a lot of talk about that and whether we would do an on-air pledge drive or would that not be the route to go. I don't think so, and I think public radio audiences are really sick of pledge drives.
Yes, we have to ring the bell. So what is this?
Last chance for raffle tickets. We're going to do the drawing in about 15 minutes.
What Peggy does is made possible by local support, by local financial support, and that it's not a guarantee that there's going to be somebody like Peggy with that kind of background and qualifications who's illuminating places and people and events in our community in the special way that she does.
I love doing this. I love production. I absolutely love production. This is what I live for, to bring information to people in a way that's listenable and enjoyable. This was at KPFA, and I just talked to whoever was in charge and said, okay, I'll try it out for a couple of weeks, and maybe by then you'll have somebody. And so I went and immediately got tricked into going on the air, and it was mainly playing music. But I suddenly realized after a short time that I could use my writing skills, had all these tape recorders, microphones, and I learned how to use a portable cassette machine. I could go out and do interviews. I could bring people into the studio and talk to them, play Indian music, and that became my passion. And I did that show live on Friday nights for 5 years and really learned my skills. So the simple answer is I have a very long history in public broadcasting. And I've been in public broadcasting more than half my life, because I'm just here doing the work that I do. And it's resulted in this Lifetime Achievement Award and all these other awards for being a journalist and a documentarian. I love what I do. So what I can bring to a radio station is 38 years of experience in public broadcasting on the local and the national level. As a journalist, as a program director for 3 different stations, I have sat in the boardrooms for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with 2 major museums, 2 Smithsonians, the National Museum of American History, on a huge series in 1992, the Quincentennial of the United States, and then I worked with the National Museum of the American Indian on its grand opening, and we did 6 one-hour programs, and again I had an ensemble of reporters and producers on scene.
Peggy was given the Bader Award by NFCB, which is the highest award that NFCB gave, and it's for a lifetime accomplishments in furthering the mission of community radio. In community radio, I would say this, in community radio, Peggy is loved and respected and acknowledged.
I had mentioned before that Peggy did work at the National Federation of Community Broadcasters for a while, developing sustainability and collaborative issues among the network of native radio stations around the United States. Not an easy task at all. So that in that part, she was working not on program production, but really on strengthening the business side and the management.
If I were to describe Peggy Berryhill, and if I only had one word, it would be courageous. That her heart is probably one of the biggest that I've encountered in public radio. She has done so much for Native American media, but also for media for people of color, because I think she's been an inspiration to many people within the Native American community, of course, but outside of that as well, because I think she leads by example.
I would describe Peggy Berryhill as selfless, very humble. The lady is amazing. She's done so many things and gone through so many different different things in life that, I mean, it takes a really strong woman to do what she's done. And she's always willing willing to help. Just always real positive, never judging, always there to help you, bring you in, draw you in, and be there for you. And she's just it's a good soul. She's a very, very good person. Resourceful. It means that if I need something, I can call Peggy and she will find it somewhere in the world of radio.
Peggy was one of very few Native American people with any kind of production skills, because she was, I think at that time, working for National Public Radio in DC. Just did a bunch of training with all of the staff and taught them how to use the production room. Nobody ever used the production room because they didn't know how to produce anything, but probably every station since then that I worked at, I always had Peggy come and do training with the staff. Of course, everybody knows her now, but back then no one knew who she was or anything. And now there isn't a Native radio person on the face of the earth that doesn't know Peggy.
I can talk about a few of the productions that Peggy did with NAPT at the time, Native American Public Telecommunications. There were a couple of series that stand out as real game changers in radio production for Native Americans, and that would be the Club Red comedy series, which we did in partnership with Peggy and Charlie Hill. One of the other series that she did for us was Spirits of the Present. And this was a long series. And the thing that is important about that is that people that live in the West probably are aware that Native Americans are still alive, but people in the East think we're all dead. And it's of the present. I mean, this is contemporary interviews with modern day Native Americans who are making a difference in the lives of their family and their communities. And it was just a really important series that aired on NPR stations all across the country, to show that we are still here, we still speak our languages, and we're still proud of our heritage.
The Spirits of the Present, the Legacy from Native America. One of the most joyful things I worked on, American History Museum, Smithsonian Institution American History Museum, to work with their radio department. And we created this series, The Spirits of the Present, the Legacy from Native Americans. So we produced a series. It took about 2 years. It was the highest carried series ever of a limited series on public radio. I was the series producer for Spirits of the Present, The Legacy from Native America. You work with the writers, you work with the producers, you work in the studio as things are being mixed to hear how they're working. You work with the press team, the PR team. You report to the executive producer for the Smithsonian. You have audio engineers, so you're working on 13 stories at once, and making sure everything is happening, making sure everything is in motion, helping troubleshoot if somebody's not getting through, because you can't just parachute into an Indian community. I can't walk into an Indian community and just say, oh, hi, I'm here, I want to talk to somebody. It doesn't work like that.
Peggy and I met back in the late 70s, 79, 1980, which is, 37 years ago, almost. But I first ran into her when I went by public radio, National Public Radio, and she was working as an intern, a trainee actually, is what she was working for. And she had been there and was the first Native American trainee to join NPR, National Public Radio. And turned into a nice position for her after she stayed there for a while.
Yeah, Peggy's a switch engine, like a train switch engine. She assembles people and resources together into a project, and it rolls on down the tracks. And one time I brought her in and asked her, what's going on in Indian country, and what connections are available digitally for Native communities. And she talked eloquently about it. What can our listeners do to help? And she came right back and said, hey, we can solve our own problems. We know what we need to do, and we can take care of it. So just stay out of our way. We'll take care of it. And I thought, wow, that's really good. There's a certain confidence there, and that's what Peggy always had. Like, hey, we know how to do this. If we don't, we'll figure it out. And we'll talk to a lot of other people and get resources and things like that. But we're in the driver's seat. In fact, I think those were her exact words.
Support for NPR comes from
working on the programming. And when you talk with Peggy, she's the first one to tell you how much she loves making radio programs. And that's something that I loved doing. And working with her was so very satisfying. But that's when it's important where you have very strong members of your team. And this is also interesting because you're dealing with people, you want people like Peggy who are very independent, who are going to argue with you when you question some of their decisions or why we should interview somebody or why we should move a program into a particular area. You want somebody to argue with you to make their case. Sometimes you still have to say no. That's part of the job of being an executive producer. But you want somebody to make their case. So you want somebody who thinks on their own, who's independent, who's intelligent, who has that smile and charm so she can get people to relax and talk to her. But you also want somebody who's going to play as part of the team. And that's part of the trick of working at the national level in a programming department at an organization like NPR. Peggy was a part of the team, but Peggy was independent, and that's what made her so valuable in what we were doing back then.
We dipped a little bit, and no pun intended, that's a bad way of putting it. Let me revise that. We talked a little bit about my alcoholic years. That's important for me to talk about because I want people to know that you can change. It ain't going to be easy. I was a late stage alcoholic. I think that's hard for people to get. They see this nice little person sitting here, and now with my gray hair I look like this nice little old lady there, and you think, oh, she could never have been an alcoholic and a drug addict, but I was. I was very, very addicted. And I really feel it's important that people know that you can get help. It might be AA, it might not be. It might be your pastor, it might not be. It might be friends, it might be the White Bison Society, I don't know, it could be something. You could go into rehab. But you can do it. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, as they say, you don't have to be. And people like me, I'm really happy to be celebrating 28 years clean and sober. It's really cool to not drink. It's really cool to wake up from those drinking dreams and go, oh my God, thank God that was a dream. Don't have to live like that anymore. So that's one thing we didn't talk about. This is 2014. It's not a word, no, we don't like to raise the word, but yes, racism is alive and well. Sexism is alive and well. Homophobia is alive and well. All of these things that people are either afraid of, they hurt other people because of their beliefs. We got to change that. Yes, 25 years with Susan Rushmeyer's my partner, my life partner, my soulmate.
Well, Peggy and I met many years ago in Sebastopol, California, and we became involved in a friendship at first and then in a relationship, and we've been together for about 25 years, I think. Yeah. You think she's settled? Peggy. Yeah, you mean geographically, she's been in one place. It's funny, it's the first time I've known her that she hasn't been traveling. She's traveled so much. All through our relationship, she's traveled. And, because of her, being sick, she has stopped traveling. Well, obviously the road, driving this road at all hours of the day and night, and the distance to get medical attention for something serious like that. That's challenging. Well, 75 miles to get medical attention on, not a freeway, on a very curvy road with lots of animals running back and forth. For someone who's sick, it's a tough road to be a passenger in. I mean, sometimes when I would drive Peggy back after she had treatment, I don't know how she could stand it, with being so full of chemicals and feeling sick. And no matter how you drive this road, you can't not rock the car back and forth. I mean, it's a tough road for someone who's sick.
48 ounces of this stuff. It's not fun. I am really sick of this, and I have to play little games with myself. I created this little drinking song. I thought, well, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, oh man, I can't do it. This is like, I am serious. I'm down to about maybe 10 ounces left. Oh, God. Here's to you, Cato Hanlon.
It's Peggy checking in with you. I'm sure missing you guys this year.
No, the thing is, like, here's our Peggy, right? So whether we've talked to her in the last 20 seconds or the last 3 years, it's our Peggy. This is what's happening to her. She's letting us know, and she is letting us know, understanding why we were all there and all in there together and all sisters and brothers, and what we're doing, what's the point, and who is Peggy, in our circle, who is Peggy, just really, really being aware of that, and it was a wonderful thing.
Okay, that's what it is. I mean, like I said, here's my choice. My choice is treatment or death. We'll take treatment. And not looking forward to another surgery. I've had many surgeries in my life for whatever reasons. I've had various surgeries. So I'm in the hands of a great surgeon, Cato Hanlon. Cato Hanlon is amazing. And we'll introduce you to her somewhere along the line.
Wanted an update?
I would love an update on my health.
Okay. So the PEGster is doing great. We got the pathology report, and it shows that the margins of what we removed did not have any cancer on it.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Thank you guys so much.
Because we had a happy childhood, very happy childhood, and so she needs to know this is where she came from, and this is where she got her strength, is from her mother, and other important things we got from our dad, and the family unit is still alive and well down here, as we saw yesterday.
Yesterday was an amazing day, being reunited with the cousins. I think the importance for us as Indians, families, I mean, I think genealogy is important to a lot of families. And everybody wants to be as much full blood as they can. It's just so important to be as much Native, although that's, the blood is blood. Our DNA is our DNA. But to be able to say, I'm a full blood, is really important. And so to have that recognition that, yes, my parents, my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, they were all Indian. And I am them, and they are we, is so important. And we say, my great-great-great-grandmother, Parsinda, was 11 years old on the Trail of Tears. And that grandmother is the same grandmother to the Perriman side. That means something. Our history is important, and looking at those photos that we could share. I was able to share photos of our paternal grandfather, and he abandoned my mom and her little sister Lizzie when they were young. He would
he left him a house. He had some oil money or some kind of money, and he had a house, which we got to see yesterday. It's still standing. It's barely. That our mothers grew up so strong, and they raised us. And we share that common bond of sometimes we grieve a little bit for those little girls, but they grew up as strong women and brought us into being. So all of those things are part of our shared history. And as families, we get together and we get to share that. We get to be sad, we get to be happy, and we just love each other. And what I found out yesterday was, boy, we just come from sweet, I mean, it's not that I didn't know it. I'm getting all teary here, but very sweet, very kind, very loving people whose parents came through much harder times. It wasn't easy to be a Muskogee when they were growing up.
Is it worth it? Well, it's certainly great to have the pat on the backs and the smiles and the people who stop me everywhere and tell me what it means to them. And I'm a ham, I like that too. I like meeting people. All of that is worth it, and I really do feel a change coming about for a lot of reasons. I think KGRA is just a part of it. In terms of community, with the big C, community. I find that really good. And really, I guess this is a gift the Creator's given me, is not only can I talk, but I can help bring people together. So I guess that's the reward, being of service. That's the reward, I guess.